everyone, today we're going to be talking about a crucial part of violin playing, left-hand articulation. Now before you click away, I promise this video will be worth your time. Mindful playing is key, no matter what the level you're at. So don't be fooled into thinking that you've already mastered the basics. Actually, I highly suggest that you grab a notebook and take notes along with this video. Because if this information is really absorbed the way it should be, it will transform your playing. In order to have clear, concise playing, each note must be well articulated. And we talk a lot about the right hand articulation, but we rarely talk about how important the left hand articulation is to violin playing. So this video will be divided into 3 sections. Number 1, we're going to talk about the left hand positioning on the violin. Number 2, we're going to talk about a finger lifting exercise as well as a variant. And finally, we'll be talking about Kruetzer number 9 as a way to demonstrate left-hand articulation. So for starters, let's talk about the position of the left hand on the violin. This is all the way back to the basics, but not many people actually do this step right. So to start off, the direction of your left hand fingernails on the violin, they should always be facing you. No matter where you are, how high up you are in position, your fingernails should always be pointed towards you, not towards the wall back there, not standing up straight, but they should be pointed towards you. So the string should come out the middle of your fingernail as so. And your fingernail should always be pointed towards you. Now the second thing to note is that your fingerboard is curved like the bridge right here. It's not flat, so just keep that in mind. Now, the third thing to note about your left hand positioning is your thumb placement. As you can see here, many people tend to deviate, whether it's parallel with the first finger, which is what I do. Some people do parallel with the second finger, some people kind of do in between, but your thumb should never be behind, like so. It should never be behind your first finger, because that'll turn all your intonation kind of flat and drag your hand down. Whether it is parallel with the first finger, second finger, or somewhere in between, pick a position and stick with it. Now the fourth thing we want to note is actually a very important key concept. String crossings. We learn about the string crossings with the right arm and how there are 7 different levels with the right arm, 1 for each string. As you can see, the upper arm moves as such. However, something we don't really talk about is how this left hand elbow should also be moving in conjunction with which string you're on. So let's put all of our 4 fingers down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Also, this is the natural hand frame that your hand should be in at all times. Very important. There are 7 different levels that your elbow should be at here. So let's start on the A string. If we put all 4 of our fingers down on the A string, like so, and whatever we feel natural is here, that is our position for the A string. Now, what does this really mean? It means how you can find out the other levels of your left hand elbow is you lift all 4 fingers, so I'm lifting them, and then I rotate my elbow, whether it's this way, whether I rotate my elbow towards me or away from me, that depends on the string. So here I am on the A string, and then I lift all 4 fingers, and then I move my elbow towards me to move to the D string. Place them down, really feel where my elbow is, lift, move, G string. So the G string, it should be coming out the most, so towards you. And then if I move back, D string, A string, E string, E string should be facing outward the most. And you can do this, lifting all 4 fingers and putting them back down to really feel where your elbow placement should be for each string. This is really important because a lot of the times we will move strings like so, but our elbow doesn't move, which makes it really difficult for our fingers to be in tune all the time. Now we say that there are 7 levels because you can also do double stops. So that would be the octave hand frame. I put my first finger down on the G string, 4th finger on the D string, forming an octave. And then that is another level. Then I'm on an octave with the D and A string, then A and E. So in total I have 7 levels. G, D, A, E, G, D, D, A, A, E. Okay, so now that we've got our left hand positioning out of the way, let's talk about our first exercise, a finger lifting exercise. Now this finger lifting exercise is really going to solidify what we just learned in the last section, and it's also going to start to introduce the concept of finger articulation. So step one, let's place all 4 of our fingers on the E string. Now that we've done that, what we want to do is we want to lift 2, 3, and 4 equal distance above the string. Now we want to make sure that these 3 fingers are equal distance above the string, because having them the same height above the string is going to help you calculate every single thing you do regarding violin, every single note you play. It is all a calculation. The coordinating of your 2 hands, the timing of everything, the timing of your right hand, your left hand, how long it takes for your finger to come down. Keeping them equal distance above the string at all times, which also comes into play with your hand frame, that's what's going to help you, especially in fast passages when timing is everything. If they're different distances, let's say like my hand kind of looks like this, it's going to take my pinky almost double the time it takes my first finger to come down. Having your fingers uneven above the string is going to confuse you, and you're not going to know how exactly to time your fingers to come down every single time. So now we've talked about that, let's lift our 2, 3, and 4, and then we drop them at the same time. So lift and drop, lift, drop, lift, drop. Feel the way that your fingers drop as well as the way that they lift. The lifting should feel more like a springing motion rather than you forcing your fingers to come up. So I'm letting my fingers naturally drop with the weight of gravity. I'm not forcing them down, and they're springing back up. Think of this as a reflex. We're training a natural ability that every human has to work in our favor. Now repeat this on the other string. So we're going to move to the A string, moving our elbow, and we use the 1 as an anchor every time. So 2, 3, and 4 lifting up and down, and then you move to the D string, elbow moving, and then you move to the G string. This is the group finger exercise. Now for a variation, we're going to train our independent fingers. So this is the individual finger exercise. The individual finger exercise goes as such. So you have your first finger on the A string, your 2, 3, 4 on the E string. Now what you want to do is you want to just move your first finger up and down, always keeping a steady rhythm for the group finger exercise and the individual finger exercise. Up, down, up, down. So up and down, up and down. Then you want to move your second finger to the A string. Up, up and down, up, down, up, down. Then you move your third finger from the E string to the A string. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then your forefinger to the A string. And then this time your elbow should move slightly to move to the A string. Up, down, up, down, up, down. And you just repeat this, moving your first finger back to the D string. Then you repeat it, going to the D string. I'm just speeding up for the purposes here, but keep a steady rhythm. Then you go to the G string. Now you're just going to work your way back down from the E string to the G string. Once all your 4 fingers are back on the G string, you're going to work your way back up, starting with your first finger on the D string, doing the same thing, then second finger, third finger, fourth finger, and then your A string, until all 4 fingers end up back on the E string. Now that is the individual finger exercise, which trains individual finger muscles as opposed to them as a group. Now I'm just going to be honest with you, this stuff is not easy. Even if it looks simple, it's actually a lot to absorb. I'd recommend you pause the video here and maybe come back when this stuff has absorbed a little bit more. If you ever need to pause at any point in this video, please feel free to do so. I highly recommend it. Sometimes you might even need to pause for days to really let this stuff sink in and absorb it and practice really understand every concept talked about here. It's better to master one small thing at a time, especially going from step 1 of this video, than to half learn everything there is. The point of this video is to really understand these basic fundamentals and really master them, because otherwise it's just a waste of time. If the foundation isn't firm, how are you supposed to build a whole city on top of it? Now, one more note, if your hand is tense at any point doing any of these exercises, say you're really tense here, anywhere, make sure you stop, shake it off, let the blood go back to your hand, and then you can continue. Finally, we're going to talk about Kruetzer number 9. I'm a huge fan of the Kruetzer Etudes for fundamentals and basics, which are crucial to violin playing. Kruetzer number 9 is perfect to learn the left hand articulation if done properly. To start, you can put your bow down. We're not going to need that for a while. So let's begin with this etude with the on and off articulation. So without the bow, we're really going to feel that springing action, the dropping and lifting of our fingers. Some things to keep in mind as we're doing this: make sure your left hand thumb is not pressing into the fingerboard, nor is it squeezing tightly. If it is, A, shake it off. B, this might sound strange, but let's practice it without the thumb. Now, how do we do that? The reflex part doesn't change. What does change is that your thumb isn't there anymore. So your second finger becomes the anchor instead. It doesn't move and it secures the position of your hand. We need to make sure that there's no tension in our left hand thumb whatsoever, because if there's any strain, you won't last very long through this ongoing etude. So here, we're just playing the same thing, but we take the thumb off. So now our second finger is the anchor. Once you're ready, add the thumb back in, and this time you should feel how much less tense your thumb actually was. And then once you're more comfortable with practicing it, we can add the bow back in. With the bow, you're still focusing on maintaining everything you did without the bow. So the left hand articulation, the springing action of the left hand fingers, not squeezing the thumb, while also focusing on an even tone with the bow. Make sure your bow hand is light. Once you get more comfortable, you can use this as a daily warm-up or a daily practice routine, part of your daily practice routine. Your hand will get stronger, and this becomes the basis of your left hand. Now, don't get carried away, this is only the strength part of your left hand. There's a lot of other things like flexibility, stretching, etc. And then you can also speed up this etude and use lighter fingers as more of an endurance practice. So. And you can speed it up. But don't ignore the articulation of every single finger. To maintain all of these things, it takes years of practice. So be patient, don't worry, take your time. I can't stress that enough. Go back and review anything you need at any time, because if there's anything wrong with the basics, it is 10 times harder to correct it later down the road. Always remember that Rome wasn't built in a day. These are foundations that need to be built on and continuously worked on for the rest of your career as a violinist. Now, happy practicing! I really hope that this video helped you and that you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and most importantly, share it with people if you thought this video was helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.